I declare. Myler's heavy voice boomed inside Lurgan's brain. Poor Lurgan had been through a lot these past months. He longed for the simpler days, when he was just a humble country priest riding around his little parish, saying mass on Sunday and listening to the sins of farmers' wives. Lurgy, I said, I declare, came the boss's voice again. What has he become? Lurgy asked himself. How is he getting away with it? Everyone just does whatever he wants, no questions asked. He's got some kind of a hold on people's minds, so he has. Lurgy, wake up. I'm declaring. Lurgy opened his eyes and found himself sitting in a throne in the Archbishop's treasure room. He had fallen asleep from pure exhaustion. Finally, still half asleep, Lurgy spoke. What? You declare, your worship? Lurgy, are you awake? The boss asked. You look a bit dopey. Lurgy straightened himself, stifling a yawn. Yes, your worship, he replied. I'm awake. What is it that your worship declares? Well, Lurgy, the Archbishop leaned close, almost whispering. I've been watching my flock. All through my career, I've been watching. He shifted slightly in his throne, making a funny sniggering sound. What have you observed, your worship? Asked Lurgy. Do not interrupt me, the Archbishop shouted angrily. Then, dropping back into his almost whisper, I've noted that my flock is becoming quite learned. I mean to say, they're reading a lot, aren't they? He paused, waiting for a reply. Aren't they? Yes, your worship, you are correct. I suppose they have more books nowadays than they used to. But isn't that a good thing, your worship? Asked Lurgy. No, replied the Archbishop, banging his fist on the arm of his throne, clearly frustrated with Lurgy's ignorance. Lurgy, knowing Myler's temper, was afraid to open his mouth, so he raised his curly eyebrows, tilted his head to one side and widened his eyes, making him look a bit like a curious, purple-faced bulldog. Myler sighed loudly. Lurgy, 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 said Myler, his voice weary but oozing patience. My dear, thick Lurgy, can you not see why it is bad for these simple peasants to be reading? Lurgy shook his head. Myler sighed again. Lurgy, it's very simple. People who read begin to think for themselves. People who read enough will discover the truth. People who read too much get ideas about doing things differently. The way things are now, with these simple farmers bringing me food, these merchants paying me taxes, these women making my lovely clothes, all for free. Myler sat back in his luxurious throne. All because they know Myler is such a great guy. What if they all get ideas about changing this perfect situation? Lurgy nodded his head understandingly. No, Lurgy, the Archbishop continued. We can't allow that. I, Archbishop Myler McGrath, have worked long and hard to get where I am today. I used to polish the curate's smelly boots as a young boy in Mullachmeen, you know. Many is the time I had to wrestle his hairy old nanny goat for a drop of milk, and what thanks did I get? A clatter of a history book down on top of me poor little head. Well, I showed him. Before long, he was polishing my boots. And not long after that, I shipped him and his awful history books and his dirty old nanny goat off to Mexico. And look at me now. Lurgy looked at Myler, not quite knowing how he was supposed to react. Look at me, Archbishop Myler McGrath, if you don't mind. The boss of all the bishops. No more polishing boots or milking stinky goats for me. No, no, no. When I sail the seas, I dine at the captain's table. I drink tea with the Archbishop of Canterbury himself. Lurgy, I, Myler McGrath, a humble boy from the county Fermanagh, have eaten marmalade in the splendid gardens of Hatfield House with good Queen Bess herself. Lurgy raised his eyebrows, trying his best to look impressed. This pleased the Archbishop. Yes, Lurgy, eaten marmalade with the Queen I have. Spoonfuls of it. I have come a very long way, and I am not about to go back. These peasants are reading far too much for my liking, and this scrawny old busybody Abbot Anglebert is behind it, with his shiny head and his fancy library. So, Lurgy, I declare, he stood up out of his throne, I declare a war on books. A war on books? Lurgy was puzzled. How could you declare a war on books? Just watch me, Lurgy, Myler replied. Just you watch. Myler had that crazed look in his eyes, so Lurgy just nodded in agreement. Myler continued, and I know where we're going first.